Stay tuned for the 5 p.m. report next on Channel 4.
Watch out. Taco Bell's gonna give you the works.
The works are 3 new combination platters just made for you. They're really saucy, big and beefy, cheddar cheesy, crispy crunchy. When you're getting really hungry, ask for the works.
Each for about $3.
Eeny, meeny, go for beanie. Tasty, happy, mighty munchy.
Absolutely.
Very tasty.
Now you're getting really hungry.
Ask for the works.
Oh, yeah.
Ask for the works. Ask for the works.
We're your Blade X sales team. We and your dealer want your cornfields to be weed-free. All we ask is that you use Blade X at today's rates. We're so sure you'll be pleased with the weed control that we stand behind Blade X with our Satisfied Performance Agreement, which means if you're not satisfied, we'll respray your fields at no cost to you. Sound fair? Yeah! It is. So see your dealer and believe in Blade X. We stand behind it.
Wheel of Fortune, a show the whole family can enjoy, with puzzles to be solved by the young and young at heart, and prizes to be won by all.
The power belongs to you guys.
So get your family involved. See who can solve the puzzles first at your house. Wheel of Fortune with Pat Sajak and Vanna White.
The Wheel spins weeknights at 6:30 on WCCO Television, Channel 4. WCCO Television, Minneapolis, St. Paul. Serving and informing the Twin Cities for 4 decades. This is WCCO Television, Minneapolis, St. Paul. And now, Don Shelby, Pat Miles, Bud Kraling, and Ralph John Fritz bring you Channel 4's 5 p.m. report.
I looked for the best vice president, and I found her in Jerry Ferraro.
It was just 8 months ago that the name Geraldine or Jerry Ferraro became a household term. Then, after a landslide defeat in the presidential election, Ms. Ferraro reestablished a law practice in New York and began work on the speakers circuit and in commercial television. Today, that work brought her back to Minnesota. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. The last time Geraldine Ferraro came to town, she was campaigning with a running mate, Walter Mondale.
But Don, this time around, Mondale had to cancel out on a day of speeches and appearances at political fundraisers. Ferraro took the job on alone, first with a noontime speech at the University of Minnesota. She told her audience she would not give a partisan speech, but her talk, as part of the Carlson Lecture Series, included plenty of calls for traditional Democratic principles and plenty of criticisms of President Reagan's policies. Ferraro said many of the administration's proposed budget cuts are short-sighted and will end up costing taxpayers in the long run. She also talked about the legacy of her unsuccessful run for the vice presidency.
On the night of November 6th, I conceded the election to Mr. Reagan and Mr. Bush. I had no choice. But on another level, I must say that I don't really believe that we lost in 1984. For our ticket was truly a breakthrough. We opened a door that will never again be closed. And that is something that women in my party can be proud of for years to come.
Ferraro, who greeted high school students and later an overflowed crowd from her lecture, said she's partial to Minnesotans. This was the only state that she and Walter Mondale carried. But unlike her running mate, Ferraro has not closed the door on future campaigns. A very different kind of campaign has brought the U.S. Surgeon General to the Twin Cities. Dr. Everett Koop testified on the dangers of smoking before a legislative hearing at the state capitol today. Koop strongly supports Minnesota's Clean Indoor Air Act, requiring no smoking areas, and would like to make it a model for the nation. And he joins us live now. Good afternoon, Dr. Koop.
Good afternoon.
What would a smoke-free environment by the year 2000 be?
Well, it would not be a proscription on smoking for citizens who wish to smoke. The term society comes from a root word which means companionship, and I think that says it all. You don't smoke in the presence of other people whose health you might damage because of your smoking.
How realistic do you think that is?
I think it's very realistic. It's 15 years away. The response since I made this call in May of 1984 has been tremendous. And we look forward to a national meeting sometime in this fall of '85 where perhaps 200 organizations, public and private, will get together and see what piece of the pie they want to take.
You're on sort of a moral campaign, it seems. Is it true that this is about the only way that's going to be accomplished, in as much as it appears the federal government will not move against the tobacco companies?
Well, I don't think that's the issue. The role of the Surgeon General and the role of the Health Department is to educate and to bring together factors in public and private enterprise that can bring this to pass. We cannot be proscriptive, and it's a matter of health, not morals.
But at the same time, I think that it does bring up some confusion among the American people to find that the same government that is making statements that this is the leading cause of preventable death in the United States is the same government that underwrites the industry that creates the problem.
Well, that's true, and it does sound schizophrenic, I know, but I can assure you, if you could magically withdraw price supports from tobacco tomorrow, it would not change the health status of individuals who are dying at the tune of $340,000 a year from smoking. As a matter of fact, if you did that and the price of tobacco fell and it became a glut on the market, you might end up worse off than you are, because the cigarette manufacturers would have a greater piece of profit to put back into advertising and entice young people to smoke.
You see a lot of different statistics, one contradictory of the other. Are people smoking less? Are you having an effect? Are the statistics having an effect?
I don't know who's having the effect, but over a period of 20 years, since this was first brought to the attention of the American people, the number of those who smoke has dropped from 55% to 30%. And this year, the per capita consumption of cigarettes is lower than any time in this country since 1949. I think that's progress.
Dr. Koop, thank you for joining us today.
Our pleasure. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
The Food and Drug Administration approved another kind of artificial heart to keep patients alive until a human donor heart can be found. The air-driven device is nicknamed the Penn State Heart. It is the result of 15 years of work by doctors in Hershey, Pennsylvania. It's only the second artificial heart with federal approval. There are no potential patients for the heart as yet. A new national study contains some very unsettling news about the disease AIDS. It shows that women married to AIDS victims may be more susceptible to the disease than was earlier thought. Caroline Lowe is here to tell us a little bit more about the findings and the impact on people in Minnesota. We thought at first that perhaps women, the spouses of men with AIDS, did not get AIDS very readily.
Exactly. For starters, I should mention there has not been a case in Minnesota. Of all the 23 victims that have been reported since 1982, all have been men, most have been homosexual, some have been drug abusers. This most recent study, which has just been done, was done in Washington, D.C. at Walter Reed Army Medical Center. 7 married men who had AIDS were studied along with their wives. They found that 5 of the 7 spouses, 5 of the wives, also had AIDS or early symptoms of AIDS.
And all of these individuals, were they gay? Were the men gay?
All of the men denied that they'd had homosexual contacts. Several of them did acknowledge they'd had repeated heterosexual contacts with other women, perhaps, who had bisexual relationships themselves. But in other studies have been done in other places where men have denied it. Subsequently, they admitted, in fact, they had homosexual contact. So we don't know for sure if there was any involved at all.
What does that tell us then about a health threat to the rest of the population, perhaps children living in the household of an AIDS victim?
Well, in terms of the children, there it doesn't appear to be too much concern, because you can't get it through just normal contact. It has to be some kind of repeated physical contact. 11 children of the people in the study were studied themselves, and there was one child who did get AIDS, and that child got it from his mother. And the mother had passed it on at birth. But none of the others who'd had repeated contact in the household had gotten AIDS.
Did the test that has been conducted, to which we referred, did it have anything to say about where the AIDS may have come from in these people who said that they were not gay?
Well, 3 of the 7 admitted they had been involved in drug abuse.
Drugs,
that's what they claimed. And they don't have answers to the other. The possibility is if they truly were only involved in heterosexual relations, maybe the women they were involved with had been involved with men who had AIDS, men who were bisexual. But we really don't know.
All right, Caroline, thank you very much. Just a day after getting his new job, the university president, Kenneth Keller, may have to begin a fight to keep it. The story's next when the Thursday 5 p.m. report continues.
How'd you like to go into business for yourself? Of course, you'll have to work hard. Start early every day. Go into debt for the equipment you'll need. And there'll be things you can't control. Government regulations, the weather, even your product's selling price. Did I mention that one bad year could wipe you out? I'm talking about a very risky business, farming. But every year, over 2 million American farmers bet their family's financial future on their ability to produce and market a crop at a profit. Because they take the chance, the rest of us enjoy a reliable supply of food. American agriculture. It pays off for all of us because farmers are willing to take the risk. This message is brought to you by Dual Herbicide on behalf of the American corn and soybean grower.
Sometimes things that look alike are very different when you look closer, like snowflakes. Homes are like that. So are people who sell them. We're Coldwell Banker Real Estate, America's largest full-service real estate company, and we have different and better ways to help people find the right home. And those differences should give you a very warm feeling. Coldwell Banker Real Estate, the home sellers, a member of the Sears Financial Network.
The wheels were set in motion today to unseat Kenneth Keller, named by the U of M Regents only yesterday as the university's new president. In federal court today, the University of Minnesota professors, or I should say 10 professors, claimed that Dr. Keller's appointment violates a court-sanctioned sex discrimination agreement. And federal magistrate Earl Cudd ordered an expedited hearing in federal court on any petition they file. The plaintiffs say they plan to subpoena the Regents to explain how the selection was made, and they hope to prove, quote, the old boys network was at work when and that women and minorities were systematically excluded in the selection process. Attorneys for the Regents say that they want the matter cleared up quickly and that they believe the lawsuit is basically frivolous, lacking substantial evidence that anyone was discriminated against. In Washington, the Senate Budget Committee has approved a budget for fiscal 1986. It may set the stage for a showdown because the plan is not what President Reagan wants. He has already proposed a package of his own. This new budget plan would freeze almost all domestic spending, as Jim Gately explains from our Washington newsroom. Jim?
Debbie, Senate Republicans say there are no painless ways to reduce the deficit. Their plan cuts either $55 billion or $42 billion, depending on how you do your accounting. One major point is that this budget does not call for any tax increases. The highly visible military budget is a loser under the Senate plan. Defense spending will go up, but only by an inflation factor estimated at 4%. And that is much under the 10% hike the president had requested. Many retirees will not be getting a cost of living increase if this budget is adopted. Pension benefits for retirees will be frozen for Social Security recipients, civil service, and military retirees. That freeze is for 1 year. Farmers do a little better. The ag budget would be frozen with no allowance for inflation, but the plan states that no direct payments to producers would be cut. It's believed some support and subsidy programs may have to be revamped, but overall farm spending will not be reduced. That's not the case for many other government programs. Payments for Amtrak, the Small Business Administration, revenue sharing, and mass transit, among others, may be reduced. We asked Senator Rudy Boschwitz what are the best and worst parts of this budget.
There are only the best things involved. First of all, we have made great progress on the budget, and if we're going to have a continual recovery in our economy, we have to do that.
To the senator, Minnesota farmers will do okay under this budget.
We froze at very high levels, in reality, the agricultural outlays, so that we will have adequate sums to have farmers get over what may be a difficult period in the next 2 or 3 years.
This spending plan is not the final budget. It will be debated and likely changed again and again and again. Debbie?
What kind of support does this have? I see the Senate Budget Committee approved it, but who else likes it?
Well, it's Senate Budget Committee is controlled by Republicans. They like it. Most Senate Republicans will probably go along with it. Everyone agrees the deficit must be reduced. Nobody can agree on exactly which area should be cut. Nobody wants their particular area cut. But Senate Republicans back it. They have the majority. It'll still be a tough fight. There will be some changes.
We heard the president of Amtrak say today that the $480 million that had been granted in that budget to support Amtrak was just as bad a death knell as the president's plan to cut out funding altogether.
Well, a lot of people are crying wolf down here, and I guess the deficit is so large, no senator really wants to cut Amtrak subsidies, especially through his or her estate. But everyone realized something must be done, and they're trying to dole out the cuts as fairly as possible. But everybody's complaining.
All right, Jim. Thank you very much. The Federal Reserve Bank of Minneapolis heads up the 9th district of the nation's federal banking system. And today, the bank got a new president. He's Gary Stern, who up until now had worked as the bank's senior vice president, director of research. He joins us this afternoon. You have a big job on your hands. We were just talking about budget cuts and deficits, and the Fed plays a role in that kind of monetary juggling act that we're going through currently.
We're kind of on the other side of that coin, in a sense. We're responsible for monetary policy in the country, whereas budget cuts and so forth have to do with fiscal policy, government spending and taxes and so forth.
You come into an area, you've been here quite some time, of course, but this is an area that is different than the rest of the country. We like to think of that a lot, but economically and monetarily, we are. We have a lot of grain farmers who are in trouble. We got mining people that are in trouble. Can the Fed come up with a monetary policy that might help in this situation?
Well, most of the policy instruments at our disposal are really kind of blunt in the sense that they're going to affect the national and international economy and financial markets and so forth. So it's quite limited in terms of what we can do. But just last week, we did change something called our seasonal borrowing program, which is a program that agricultural banks, in fact, can use if they have liquidity needs to borrow from us, from the Federal Reserve. And we basically liberalized eligibility requirements for seasonal borrowing, and we put in something called a temporary simplified program as well, so that to the extent that agricultural banks do see liquidity needs coming and want to come to the Federal Reserve, I think they're now in a position to do so.
Well, we've seen agricultural banks failing all across the Farm Belt regions, as well as some of the areas in mining. What can you do? Can you help those banks? Can we stop the flow of, or the trend of failure?
Well, I think there's several things going on there. Fundamentally, the banking system remains in sound condition, but there has been a deterioration in this district and elsewhere in the country because of asset quality problems. And in this district, it does have to do, in many instances, with their connection with natural resources and agricultural industries. Our concern there, of course, is that problems at specific institutions don't become systemic. That is, that they don't spill over and affect a wide number of banks or spill over beyond the banking system into other kinds of enterprises. And we try to play that role as problems emerge.
All right. Well, it's nice to know we got somebody local made out of flesh and blood. It's just not all Paul Volcker sitting up there in Washington. We sure appreciate you coming on the show.
My pleasure.
Now we have some other news. Elmer Benson, one of Minnesota's most controversial governors, has passed away after a lengthy illness. He died at the age of 89. Benson served only one two-year term from 1936 to 1938, but he remained in years later as the same polarizing figure that he was then when he took office. He was proud of his reputation as a left-winger, as a radical, though he denied he really was radical. Benson was one of the key figures in forming the Democratic Farmer Labor Party back in 1944, though he afterwards pushed aside many of those more moderate than he, and he was pushed aside by them as well. Funeral services are scheduled for Elmer Benson on Sunday in his hometown of Appleton, Minnesota.
If you need a raincoat and you want to save money, there's one place you have to shop: Burlington Coat Factory. Burlington has more raincoats and all-weather coats than you've ever seen under one roof, and you save money on every one. Whether you're looking for a trench coat with a removable lining or a single-breasted classic like this, you'll see more, save more at Burlington. Burlington Coat Factory, a great place to save on the raincoat you want.
At the optical department at Sears, every stylish frame in our entire regular stock is half price when you buy prescription lenses. The optical department at Sears.
It's Wix Everything on Sale, with spectacular savings on everything in every department. Choose a $399.95 velvet recliner, get a second recliner free. Choose a $499.95 multi-position recliner, get a second one free. Choose a $599.95 swivel rocker recliner, get a second one free. Just one group of super values in our Everything on Sale. Unexpected quality, spectacular savings. Only at Wix. Surprisingly Wix.
Get things rolling and save big money with a trailer kit from Menards. Our kit includes the frame, tires, lights, chains, and Class A coupler. Everything you need to build this sturdy trailer on sale for just $149.88. Customize the trailer to suit your needs by adding a wooden flatbed and sides, or save on accessories like this motorcycle rail or this cradle for hauling your boat or canoe. This rugged trailer can haul it all, and it's on sale now at Menards.
Save big money at Menards.
The time now is 5:18, and in exactly 1 hour, Bud tells me that the sun will set, and it looks positively sunny out where you are, Dale.
It is just a beautiful afternoon out here, Debbie. In fact, traffic-wise and weather-wise, everything's moving along quite smoothly with only A, B, and the worst we have is a C condition down in the crosstown area. Right now looking at 694 up in the Fridley area. You can see things moving along very smoothly. So I hope it's going to stay this way, but we'll keep an eye on things out here and get back to you just a little bit later.
It seems kind of warm for this month, doesn't it?
42 high today. Our afternoon temperature on the average this day is 35 degrees, so we're going along above the average. In a business of inconsistencies, we've been consistent on our afternoon temperatures. We're 41 yesterday, 41 the day before, 42 today, 45 tomorrow, and 48 degrees for the big St. Patrick's Day parade on Saturday. That should be nice for parade weather, don't you think?
No complaints.
No complaints. Well, it was 42 in the metro area today. And the coolest temperatures of the afternoon were in Michigan. Marquette was 24 degrees, and the warmest temperatures over the southeast. Avon Park, Florida, at 91 for the afternoon. We're partly cloudy, and temperature at 40 degrees, humidity at 50%. The wind is from the northwest at 14, gusting to 24 miles an hour, and the pressure reading is 30.22, and the pressure is rising. So once again, it's partly cloudy, temperature of 40. Had a rather weak cold front move into the five-state area today, brought in a few clouds along with it and a few light sprinkles of rain over the eastern part of our five-state area. It was 45 this afternoon at Chicago, hit 60 at New York, Mobile, Alabama. 84 degrees this afternoon. That's a maximum temperature record for the day. Houston was 70 on the other side of the cold front here, in Houston with 2.5 inches of rain. There was snow in the Flagstaff area, an inch at Flagstaff, and moderate to heavy snow around Flagstaff, 45 at the afternoon temperature. And at Spokane, the temperature in the 50s today. The first time in 107 days they had less than an inch of snow on the ground. And mostly sunny, the west coast to the mid to the upper Mississippi Valley, and sunny over the southeast, but in the cloud area, a lot of rain, especially Texas, Louisiana, Victoria, Texas, with 2.5 inches of rain. And the bayous are bank full, I understand. A few clouds moved into the northwestern part of Minnesota. We had a few sprinkles in east-central Minnesota, the northwestern part of Wisconsin. It's cloudy at Duluth. The temperature there is at 35. Our forecast for tonight, the Twin Cities, of clear to partly cloudy. Overnight temperature, 25. Northwest winds, 5 to 15. Sunny on Friday. A high of 45, and winds out of the southwest at 5 to 15. And for the St. Patrick's Day parade, sunny to partly sunny, with the afternoon temperature at 48 degrees.
Clear skies, nice night to stargaze.
Yes, you can go outside, get a crick in your neck.
How about it, Don?
I'll go with you. The Minnesota House today passed and sent to the Senate the controversial Superfund cleanup bill. The measure, which removes hazardous waste cleanup provisions found objectionable to business, changes the liability for companies which may have dumped waste. Opponents argued the bill does not contain protections for victims of hazardous waste. A separate victims' compensation bill is moving through the House apace. Today is the opening round of the Girls State High School basketball tournament. Tom Henneman is filling in for Ralph John Fritz today, and he'll have the details when the Thursday 5 p.m. report continues at 21 past the hour.
If you're looking for the absolute best buys of the year, head straight for Royal Oldsmobile.
And Royal Isuzu, featuring this super pickup, only $54.89, or lease with no down payment for $99 a month.
Or this luxury old Sierra, loaded just $99.99, or lease with no down payment for $195 a month.
And for great service after the sale, we give you this preferred customer gold card.
And this booklet loaded with discount coupons for service.
Get a super buy.
Plus, a preferred customer gold card.
At Rick Klein's Royal Oldsmobile and Royal Isuzu.
University of Fairview, St. Paul.
Land of Dairy Queen, we treat you right.
It's a place where everything is smooth flowing, delightful. It's the land of the Dairy Queen sundae. Come discover the land where good taste comes through, and all around is light, cool, and creamy smooth. The land of the Dairy Queen sundae.
In the land of Dairy Queen, we treat you right.
Sometimes the food you prepare almost seems to speak for itself.
And even when everyone can't eat together, we know it's important that they eat well.
No one feeds a family like Super Value.
This week, save on specials like Yoplait yogurt, only 39 cents. Cheerios, just $1.59 with coupon. And a 3-pound bag of Red Delicious apples, only 69 cents.
I wish Mommy was here.
Who do you think made Mommy feel better when she was your age?
You, Grandpa?
Over 20 million times every year, people bring their prescriptions to a Kmart pharmacy.
2 teaspoons.
That's what the label says.
For top brand name pharmaceuticals or generic equivalents were allowed.
Feels better.
And advice from trained professionals, all at a Kmart price.
I thought this might make you feel better, too.
You can't do better than Kmart.
It's now 5:24. Among the other headlines from around the world this afternoon, some American workers have been evacuated from the embassy in Beirut. Officials say they're worried about, quote, unsettled conditions in the Mideast. No word yet on whether the evacuation is permanent. Fire heavily damaged the Knox Lumber Company in Brooklyn Park overnight. It apparently started in a storage shed, then spread to an area filled with plywood. And Governor Perpich has lost out on his bid to get the Super Bowl here within the next few years. Perpich attended today's NFL meeting in Phoenix, but league owners chose Miami and New Orleans as the site for the 1989 and 1990 Super Bowls.
But the sport beat goes on. Nonetheless, basketball is basketball no matter who plays it.
That's right. The 10th year now for the girls playing in the state tournament. 9 new entries among the 16-team field right now. And the girls state high school basketball tournament tipped off today with 4 games in the Class AA. 2 quarterfinals were played at the Minneapolis Auditorium. The first contest pitted 2 pre-tournament favorites. Duluth East was ranked number 3 coming into the tournament, the highest of all qualifiers. St. Louis Park was 5th, but the Orioles could not overcome the Greyhounds at number 22, Denise Holm. The senior led all scorers with 18 points, 2 on that breakaway. Duluth East led nearly all the way, although Park stayed close. In the second quarterfinal, Totino Grace did not stay close. The Eagles were shot down by the defending champions from Little Falls, 47-27. Little Falls was led by Sue Lease, who will need another good game tomorrow night in the semifinals against Duluth East. In the Class A quarterfinals competition today, Milroy defeated New London Spicer 48-44. That's quite an accomplishment. Milroy is the smallest school ever involved in this event. Total enrollment, 47 students. Basketball team comprised of just 8 girls. The other quarterfinal, Cass and Manderville over Bowavic, 59-45. Some interesting news today for Viking fans. Bernie Kosar, who led the University of Miami to a national championship a couple years ago, has decided to turn pro. The Vikings have the 3rd pick in this year's draft, and they've already said that if Kosar is still available at that time, they'll take him. Buffalo has the 1st pick. They've already taken Bruce Smith of Virginia Tech. Houston's next in line, but after adding Warren Moon last season, they aren't in really dire need of a quarterback. Vikings would have the next pick, and they're also talking about right now making a trade with Houston to move up to the number 2 slot. So it's possible we could get Bernie Kosar in the draft this year.
That could brighten things up just a little bit.
Sure could.
All right, thank you very much, Tom. We're going to get a final rush hour traffic check coming up in just a moment.
Patrick Duffy's planning to leave Dallas, but there's a secret plot twist that could bring him back to Victoria. The full story's in this week's Star magazine. Also, there's Tina Turner's lonely climb back to stardom, how Dr. Pritikin's diet helped him live for 26 years. The Star has it all.
They've rounded up the mafia bosses, but what about their women? I'll tell you their secret fears.
And Princess Stephanie's in trouble, too, over revealing photos that have made her father frantic. No wonder everyone's picking up the new Star magazine.
Target's home sale has everything like wrap, Reynolds wrap, 25 feet, really neat. Wrap it up, 2 rolls for $1. Cook, take a look. Target's wear, Anchor Hocking Microware. Any 3 pieces, just $10. Clean those socks with Tide's big 84-ounce box. What a find, just $2.99. So make a stop, save a lot at Target's home sale.
Over the past 2 years, all over America, there's a paper towel that's growing faster than Bounty and Viva. The extra value brand, strong, absorbent, 2-ply coronet.
Chrysler introduces the new technology of driving. Turbo New Yorker. Front-wheel drive, electronics to inform you. Chrysler luxury to comfort you and turbo power to move you. Turbo New Yorker. Once you drive it, you'll never go back to a V8 again. This is Chrysler's most technologically advanced luxury car, backed by the Chrysler Protection Plan. Turbo New Yorker by Chrysler. The best built, best backed American cars.
It is now 5:28. An item just into our newsroom. A commission has been appointed to investigate Scott County Attorney Kathleen Morris. You'll recall she's been under fire for her role in investigating the Scott County child sex abuse cases. It is a 4-member commission. It is comprised of Lynn Olson, the Anoka County District Court judge, Julius Gurnis, Winona County attorney, Irene Scott, a private attorney here in Minneapolis, and Professor John Sonsting, a William Mitchell Law School professor. We will have more on that story coming up on our news tonight at 6.
I understand that would be the commission that Governor Perpich was to appoint to look into that.
Yes, and it was a difficult commission to appoint. He had a lot of trouble going into it because he could not pick from any of the Ramsey County Attorney's Office or the Hennepin County Attorney's Office because they had voluntarily helped in gathering all the information in the first place at the behest of Skip Humphrey.
Well, the commission is charged to looking into allegations of malfeasance on the part of Kathleen Morris. Is that correct?
You have stated nearly as correctly as anyone can. Malfeasance, misfeasance, or nonfeasance, all three are possible.
We hope to clarify that further tonight at 6. Also, Marcia Flora will report further on the group of University of Minnesota employees who filed a lawsuit in federal court today challenging the hiring of Ken Keller as the university president. Former vice presidential candidate Geraldine Ferraro has been in the Twin Cities. Ellen Cox covered her speech at the university this noon. Ms. Ferraro is headlining a fundraiser for Congressman Jim Oberstar. Pat Kessler will explain a new jobs bill presented by DFL majority leaders in the Senate today. Now, Dan Rather.
Good evening. This is the CBS Evening News. Bob Schieffer sitting in tonight for Dan Rather.